What's going on? This is Marcus Martinez here with the Living.Fit show, and I have the incredible, the amazing, the inspiring Sohee Lee. Sohee, how are you doing?
I'm great. Over in England right now.
I know.
So you're making it work.
This is the beauty of
Oxford.
Oxford. Like I said, the most English of English.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited to check out the vicinity, just because it's so different from obviously freaking Los Angeles. So I think it'll be really fun to. I went on a run yesterday, and I was kind of checking out the neighborhood, which was fun. Hopefully not.
You just had to run between sheep and herders.
Not this time. No.
It is so nice to get out of the city. I know you're from LA and I'm in Orange County and go to LA a lot. And it's like to get out of the city, to get into any kind of country. Like I'll take the most basic level of countryside, but as soon as you get there, doesn't it feel like you just breathe?
It feels so different, but definitely the nature is really, really nice. And then for me, it's I can be almost anywhere, just as long as I have a safe place where I can stay and some Wi-Fi, I'm good,
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus nowadays, is as long as I got a good, strong Wi-Fi and safety is also probably a good thing too. But into your business, I have loved what you've been doing, putting out there for some time. Like I said, it's just been very inspiring. It definitely transcends. I know you have a very big kind of message of building strength, and especially for women, because that's been such a big misconception in the fitness world. But I think it goes beyond the woman. But what would you say was your kind of biggest inspiration to start to even get into the fitness world?
Yeah, well, I kind of stumbled into it by accident. I had no intention of making this a full-time career. I think back when I was starting it, which was late 2011, very early 2012, I was a senior in college. And I, at least for me at the time, it was not really a thing to pursue an online fitness career. When you think, I work in fitness, everyone thought, you're a personal trainer. And I knew that I didn't want to be a personal trainer full time. But I had just quit the pre-med path, which had been kind of my identity for a really long time, up until I was a senior in college. Right before then. So I was definitely feeling lost. And I had been working as a online client under another online coach at the time. So I knew that it was a thing. I just didn't know that it was a common thing. So anyway, I ended up starting up a blog of my own, and I started taking on a couple clients here and there. And sincerely, the only reason I was doing it was one, I enjoyed writing, and I was like, I'll just write about topics that I like to talk about. And I really don't see many women blogging in the industry. And that's back when blogging was all the rage. Everyone was blogging. Now, no, I don't know anyone who blogs. It's all about Instagram posts, right? Anyway. And then I started online coaching because I was like, you know what? I'm tutoring students right now. I'm driving to their houses back and forth. And this would really cut down on my commute time. Really, that was it. I was like, so help me pay for groceries at home while I finish college. And I was like, okay, what do I do after college? I'm like, I have no idea, but this is working for now. And basically one thing kept leading to another thing and another thing and another thing. So I took on a strength and conditioning internship after college, which then took me to New York, Connecticut, and then New York afterward, where I became, I was working part-time as a personal trainer while I continued online coaching. So basically that was building up. And about a year after that, I was making enough income to move away from New York City because I personally found it really rough. And then I just kept moving in that direction. And a couple of years later, I decided to go back to grad school and get my master's degree in psychology. Two main reasons. One, I wanted to become more confident with reading research, actually, because I knew that was the direction I kind of wanted to move in, but was lacking a lot of confidence with reading and interpreting research findings, things like that. And two, I was really curious about the psychology of eating behaviors. And that's the degree that I got my master's in, which was really cool. And anyway, I kept building my business, and now I'm getting my PhD actually through a distance program, which works out really well for what I'm doing now. And continuing to build up my coaching business. I now have a number of coaches who work under me, and I'm continuing to create content. So I guess I would now consider myself a science of fitness communicator as well as a coach. An educator.
I love the fact that you've gone down the rabbit hole, obviously much more than a rabbit hole of just reading articles. You've actually, studied this, but the psychology of eating, and that is so fascinating to me, because that's been something that I think for so long has been overlooked. It's always been, here's your nutrition plan, go do it, get results. And then people feel like absolute losers because they can't stick with it, and they don't understand why, and they just keep band-aiding it with another program. What really got you going to go deeper down that rabbit hole?
A lot of it was actually my own personal struggles with sticking to very rigid meal plans that I was prescribed as a full-time undergrad student. Now you can imagine how difficult that is when you're trying to live a college life. And I ended up actually becoming very much a hermit through much of my college career, because I did not know how to balance my fitness, very strict fitness measurement, with a social life. And no one at the time, I didn't really see anyone talking about, you can have both, you can do both. And here, you know what I mean? Don't miss out on life. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know any of those things. And so I kept thinking, obviously as time went on, I started struggling more and more with adhering to my meal plan. And for years, I thought, what is wrong with me? What is my problem? Why don't I have this self-control? Like, why am I doing well in school academically, and I'm successful in all these other areas of my life? But when it comes to my nutrition, why do I keep binging every few days? And obviously I know what to do. I just can't do it. And finally, it was actually my senior year of college when I started realizing, I think there's something to do with self-control or habits or behavior change that I'm just not quite understanding. And so from there, I started to, especially with in my practice with my coaching clients, I started kind of being like, oh, I wonder if we try this other way, or if we adopt a different mindset, what will happen then? And I started seeing through practical experience, the answer is not have more willpower or try harder. Those actually backfired in the long run. And there's a lot of like experimenting on myself. And so then I started finding the research on exactly these kinds of things where, adherence is not about having as much willpower as possible. And I started learning that it's not that people don't have enough self-control per se, it's often that it's misapplied and over-applied. And so I was like, oh shit, what if we shifted the focus towards talking more about like building up the right habits? Okay, how do we do that? How do we get people to change their behavior? Right. So that's where the whole psychology component came in. And as we're coming to learn, eating behavior is incredibly complex, and people who use coaching tactics like, you just got to want them bad enough, or just try harder, etc. When I see coaches saying things like this, to me, it demonstrates a clear misunderstanding of the way eating behavior works, and potentially also a big empathy gap as well.
That's what I was thinking was, I think we're in this day and age where I feel like we have these extremes of like, suck it up, just do it. And then, trying to make everything about feel. And I feel like there is some middle ground. Maybe I think it lends itself more to go towards the empathetic side. But you just made a post, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that I really liked. You do these little skits on your page, which I love.
Oh yeah.
You talking to your client, or you talking to yourself, but you're talking to your client, and the client says they need to lose 30 pounds. And you say, well, why do you need to lose 30 pounds? And you kind of unpack that. Like, what would be an example of someone who's just so dead set on a number goal? What would you tell them?
But for a body weight goal?
For like, if they're just like, same thing, just going off of your post.
Got it. Okay. So first of all, it is good to figure out like, what is it about this particular number that you're so stuck on? Oftentimes it's like, oh, it's what I weighed in high school when I went to prom or whatever, right? Or this is what I weighed before I had my kids. And so like, obviously that's really helpful, but it's also getting them to understand, well, obviously it's been this many years, your body's really different now. And by the way, it's okay for bodies to change over time, but also like even putting things into context, like, by the way, you've been lifting for 6 years now since then. Do you think that maybe you've got several more pounds of muscle in your frame that, maybe it's normal for your body to be a little bit heavier now because you have more muscle? And so while I am definitely okay with supporting a client towards their fat loss goal, if that's something that they want, it's also really helpful to be like, by the way, if you don't quite reach this number, we need to learn to be okay with that because of XYZ circumstances, right? Because as we know, scale weight itself is not a direct measure of body fat. But also, just from a psychological perspective, getting them to understand that actually high levels of body dissatisfaction, even when you are in a bigger body size, does not have a positive impact on eating behavior. It actually gets you to eat more. So being hard on yourself and thinking that you can hate yourself to successfully shedding body fat, I know, yes, some people do it. That doesn't mean that that's the way that works really effectively. And that doesn't mean that there are less painful ways to go about it. So when I say things like, you're allowed to actually enjoy your life now instead of waiting until you are a much smaller size to do that. Like, these are things that even I could have benefited from 10 years ago, when I was struggling a lot with binge eating, and like I had some pretty extreme body dysmorphia where I would not go to the pool with my friends in the summer because I didn't want to be seen in a bathing suit. So I would miss out on all these fun things. And looking back, I'm like, man, you should have just lived your life, but I didn't know any better. So kind of just giving people permission to, and, really challenging the weight stigma too, that we see that is absolutely everywhere. It's like, weight stigma is discrimination of people based on their body size, typically bigger body sizes, right? Where we, like in the media, you see the fat person who is portrayed as being like dumb, or like they have no luck in their romantic life because no one wants to be with them because they're bigger. Things like that. That's an example of weight stigma. And even things like when someone who is in a bigger body size has the audacity, and I put this in heavy quotes, has the audacity to, post a video of themselves dancing. Inevitably on social media, someone could come along and be like, you really should be losing some weight, right? Like, they're bothered that, why are you enjoying your life? Why aren't you running on the treadmill? Things like that. And I'm like, no, you're allowed to enjoy your life. You're allowed to actually feel better about yourself now. And in fact, if we can learn to stop tying your confidence and sense of self-worth into your body size, you're going to be a lot better off in the long run. Well-being, everything.
That's
So that's actually what I'm trying to touch on that. Unfortunately, I feel like people are still so stuck in their weight stigma ways that it doesn't always land. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, think about the years of programming from, watching TV from your parents to, like you said, you watch any movie, you watch anything, they never portray the larger, bigger person as like the hero typically. So you see that a lot, and it's just kind of ingrained in us. And I like what you said about the fact that people tie their confidence with their size, their bodies. So what do you tell someone who, let's say they've said they have this weight goal, you tell them, okay, it's okay to be content with who you are right now. And they just push back on that. What are some things that you tell them to kind of get?
Okay. Yeah. Lots of things you can do. One thing I might do is, and I know this because I used to do this, where I'd say, do you have clothes that you would wear once you're smaller? They're like, yes, I have these outfits in my closet that are so pretty, but they're like 3 sizes too small right now, but that's going to motivate me to whatever. And I'm like, okay, so what kinds of outfits do you wear now? They're like, oh, these frumpy, and I did this exact same thing, these frumpy, like sweatpants, baggy t-shirts, like I want to hide my body. And you just challenge them. How about tomorrow or sometime in the next week, buy an outfit that actually fits you now, that makes you feel really nice. And it sounds so silly, but it's really important. Like, even things like enjoyment of exercise is a lot more successful when you actually like and are comfortable in the outfit that you're wearing. Like, I'm more likely to be like, let's go have a workout when I'm like, oh, I like my outfit, instead of forcing yourself to wear uncomfortable clothes because you think you don't deserve to feel nice. Or, I guess that would be one of the biggest examples that I would use is like, do something that makes you feel good now. Like, you want to go on that hike, go do a hike this weekend. If you think you can't do it, go do an easy hike to start out with,
It's such an easy, I love how simple that is and how powerful that can be, just to, at the simplest level, to feel comfortable on your bike, go get clothes that you feel comfortable in right now. Doesn't mean you can't have that goal weight or wear those goal clothes, but
exactly.
Doing good now is just going to help you feel better later, because it's going to just, success breeds success.
Exactly. And I think the pushback that I get sometimes is, oh, so you're enabling fat people now is I get a lot of that. And obviously, as you said, there is a middle ground, and the whole point is not, encourage people to be complacent or anything like that. It's more like, yes, you're allowed to respect yourself how you are now and build on your confidence now, while also working towards goals. And both can be true. And I think there's so much black and white thinking that happens in almost everything, right? When you say one thing, like, oh my gosh, so you're implying this. And I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm actually somewhere in the middle. But I think, the more I talk about these things, hopefully the more it starts to get through to people. So I think the more it is really important for someone with, a decent size platform to use it for what I think are really important messages, because I think a lot of people don't realize how harmful something like weight stigma really is. Like literally kills people. Literally, people die because they don't want to go to the doctor because they've been shamed in the past when they have a debilitating condition and they end up having, stage 4 cancer and then they're gone. Things like that. And it's really sad. I guess I feel really strongly about it.